how can we quit fragmenting these parts of us so that we are able to embody our highest self now, our best energy now? How can we feed that part of us? Finding ways that we can be seen and heard and show up in that energy so that it receives the fuel and the energy that it needs so that it can grow, so that even when we have to show up and do some of these tasks that are more mundane, we have the fuel to do it, that fire within us is not burning out or being stifled or even, just set aside in a different box, that we are able to embody it now and make space for it now as we take the steps towards embodying her more fully. Hello, love. Welcome to the Sacred Purpose Podcast, a place where we illuminate your innate wisdom and help you embody your soul's calling. I'm your host, Lisa Malia, midwife, breast cancer survivor, and mama of 3. Turned nonprofit CEO and embodiment coach. We're each on a unique path to live our sacred purpose, but we don't need to walk it alone. Through the power of connection, feminine wisdom, and embodied leadership, we can elevate our lives, communities, and businesses. Each week, I'll bring you transformative stories, practices, and rituals to support you in trusting and following your intuition, creating space to live a life of sacred purpose with deeper clarity and unapologetic joy as we reimagine and envision a new way forward. Are you ready? Let's dive in. How to generate and refine your energy to support the vision, the projects, the ideas, and the dreams you have. That's what we're diving into today, loves. And I couldn't love this topic anymore. This is what comes up a lot for the women that I work with. And as I've dived into these archetypes a little bit more, into the feminine leadership archetypes, I'm noticing some patterns that I wanted to share with you today. So when I talk about cultivating, harnessing, generating, and refining your energy, it really looks like stepping more and more and more into alignment. It's not that we can't wear a lot of hats and we can't take on a lot of personas and we can't do all the things. We certainly can. But when we're doing the things that aren't in support of our highest self and our highest vision, and especially if we're doing it for too long, it ends up depleting us, draining us, and exhausting us. And if we aren't mindfully doing the things that inspire us, that fill us up, that give us fuel, we lose energy towards our vision. That's when emotions like fear or doubt or, all the things that come along as the sisters of exhaustion, right? That stop us from getting to where it is we want to be. And so this is a conversation about energy that goes beyond, I don't even want to say beyond self-care. It's different than self-care. This is energizing your vision energetically with actual support around it and the idea and in your highest self to support it. So self-care and nourishment and physical optimization aside, we're going to focus on energy to support your big vision and how you show up for it so that you are in more deeper alignment and refining your energy so that when you show up as your most full and empowered self, that light grows from within you and has its own source of energy, igniting and tapping into that. Think about the sun, the way that it shines. It generates its own source of energy from within and then shines it out. So that's what I'm talking about today when I say how to generate more energy for your vision. Some of the things that block us on the way, when we, like I touched on a moment ago, when we are doing things that we can do, and they're necessary things. I'm not saying that we need to stop doing the things that don't always light us up, but when we're doing them, again, out of alignment for too long, those are the things that end up tripping us up. So I've noticed 2 things. We can become exhausted as we are in the shadow of our main archetype for too long, or we can face exhaustion when we are in an archetype that is not ours at all, that we are wearing a mask, so to say, to get through a certain time for too long. For me, this looked like, and I've used this analogy before, but I am a midwife archetype. And for a long time, I was living in warrior mode. And for me, that looked a lot like survival mode. Warrior is not my main archetype, but I was living in that mode. And me doing that for too long was not sustainable. And so that is what ended up exhausting me and depleting me and eventually making me ill because I was not listening to the messages of my body. I felt like I had no choice. All of these things not true, but that's how I felt in the moment. And I didn't see my way out of it. And my body just kept speaking louder and louder and louder. And that is the shadow of the warrior, is pushing their body too hard. And so I was in an archetype that was not my own. I was neglecting the midwife in me, and it took its toll. It took its toll. And so that's how exhaustion manifested in me. And the way for me to turn that around, to refine that, was to tap back into the midwife in me and harness her energy and her brilliance and find places to let her shine so that I could show up more sustainably, that fueled me up and serve the purpose of my life and my vision and what I was born here to do. And for somebody who is a warrior, that's brilliant for them to be able to show up in that way, right? Like that is who they are. And they have to be mindful of their shadow side as well. But for them to be in warrior mode will look very different than it would be for somebody like me to try and show up that way. So that's what it looks like when we are wearing more masks than we ought to. Or, like I said, the shadow side of a midwife, even for me, is neglect. You can neglect yourself, neglect your practices, neglect your rituals. And I was doing all of that. So me, a total and complete meltdown looks like pushing my body too hard, neglecting my practices, and just not doing any of those things as a midwife. So one of those things that I love to dive into. So how do we turn that around? So I want to talk a little bit. I'm just going to touch on these a little bit for this conversation. Some of the things, the way the different archetypes do exhaust themselves. So like I said, it can be that you are in the shadow of your archetype, or it can be that you've been trying to wear the mask of a different archetype for too long. So like I said, for the warrior, that looks like pushing their body too hard. I know that's something we can all relate to on some level, but in the more extreme cases, the most, right? This is how it shows up. Spending too much time in the weeds of a problem. So this is a change maker. Problem solutions come more easily to them. So when they are stuck in the weeds of a problem in their head too much, this is just not a good sign for them. Not a good sign for anybody, but a good reminder, especially if you are a change maker. Feeling disconnected and stuck. That is the shadow of the creatrix. She's the one that needs to process and move and transform stories and energy and experiences into art. So feeling disconnected and stuck, and also can get a little bit too much in her head, overthinking what's happening, or just feeling into it but not processing it. So that can lead to being disconnected and stuck. Feeling like nobody understands what you're saying, feeling frustrated is another one that shows up for the visionary. Visionaries see a world that the rest of us don't quite see yet. So feeling like nobody quite gets you, not able to share your ideas with people that get it. So that's one of the ways that can show up. And that takes a tremendous amount of self-confidence to find your people, share your ideas, brainstorm with people, listen to other ideas. Feeling taken advantage of is something that can show up for the protector. They're nurturers, they hold space with love, and sometimes they can feel taken advantage of for having such a loving, being such a loving place to land, even though that they hold very, very strong boundaries. When they aren't respected, it can feel like they've been taken advantage of. Feeling alone and not sure of your next steps. This can be exhausting, right? When you've just been going at it for so long and you're not quite sure what's next. This shows up for the wayshower. And tired of holding it all together. This is the weaver, the one that connects everything and sees the big picture, pulls it all together, and then feeling like they have to hold it all together. Very exhausting for the weaver. Feeling overly concerned with things you can't control. This is something that the sage will hold. And then we have the midwife. Haven't practiced my daily rituals to nourish myself. So like I said, I know these are things that we can all relate to, but most deeply and most impactfully for each of those archetypes, that's the way that it shows up. So how do we flip that, right? So when we have a vision for our life and we want to follow our own truth, we know what it is our heart desires and our soul is calling us to do, to show up in a certain way, and feeling like that we are not being seen or heard or supported, or even finding places where we can express this part of us, or feeling like we can do it when, if only I had all XYZ in place, then I could do ABC. How do we bridge the gap? And instead of feeling like I have to be this way now and then I can be that way later when I have what I need, how can we quit fragmenting these parts of us so that we are able to embody our highest self now, our best energy now? How can we feed that part of us? Finding ways that we can be seen and heard and show up in that energy so that it receives the fuel and the energy that it needs so that it can grow, so that even when we have to show up and do some of these tasks that are more mundane, we have the fuel to do it, that fire within us is not burning out or being stifled, or even just set aside in a different box, that we are able to embody it now and make space for it now as we take the steps towards embodying her more fully. So that looks like doing the things that excite you, that fill you up, and doing the things where you are seen in that way so that you can have that reflection and that feedback of what that feels like and how that impact is received. So important. So let's see, I'm just going to dive into some of these. You may or may not be able to pick up on which archetypes these are, but it'll be fun to see what comes up for you, what comes through. So feeling most excited when you discover a solution that nobody else has. These are the things that can light you up. You create something beautiful, or you share your ideas with others. You learn something new about yourself. You bring people together. You get to offer guidance. Maybe you love it when people ask you for advice or guidance, or you get to witness a really powerful transformation. Somebody's invited you in to support them during a very intimate time, or you're needed and you're able to help, feeling like you are able to contribute in a meaningful way. Or being active and just feeling really empowered and strong in your body and the way that you can show up for yourself or your family or your community. Feeling like you can contribute in a meaningful way is so, so powerful, so that you can receive that energy and have almost like some immediate feedback, like a feedback loop to support what it is that you are experiencing. And just a few more here that I wanted to touch on as ways to offer fuel to your vision, to your highest self. So I'm going to dive into, and these ones I will touch up on, the different archetypes that they represent. So doing things that you enjoy. So I just touched upon some of the things that might excite you or light you up, and doing things that you enjoy also. So this can look like, for the creatrix, of course, writing, singing, painting, and or dancing, or speaking even. And it doesn't need to be for a purpose. And it can also be just noticing like the nuances of beauty around you and taking the purpose out of it, just doing it for the good of it, for the fun of it, for the experience of it. Brainstorming new ideas can be really, really good for the change maker. Finding people that just love to brainstorm ideas, just get all the ideas out there on the table and play with them. Learning and trying new things. This is great for the way shower. A great way to just take some steps, try new things, get brave, feel it out. And for the midwife, another way to really, nourish herself is in ritual and ceremony. If she hasn't been held in space for a while, the midwife is the one often holding space. So finding spaces to be held, really important. Connecting to nature in its abundance. So good for everybody, especially for the visionary. This is what's going to fuel you and regenerate that energy from within you. For all of us, these are the things. Spending time with loved ones, feeling loved and nourished and filled up by it. Really important for the protector. Actively pursuing your goals. This is for the warrior. Loves to feel active and feel like she's accomplished something. Again, I know we can relate to all of these, but these that go deep into the different archetypes to fuel them, to fuel your energy, to really harness it so you're showing up as your most potent self. Researching new projects. This is amazing for the weaver. She's, always loves to know how she can bring things together, and research is part of that. And in reflection and meditation, that's for the sage, where she gets her worldviews from, her expanded vision, her wise self, very grounded, and it offers so much perspective. So tending to these different parts of ourselves is so important to being able to generate the energy we need to show up as our most brilliant and impactful selves. I hope this was a fun little exploration for you. There will be more. Just tune into the next episode. We'll be diving much more into the feminine leadership archetypes and the ways that we can support them, the ways we can support each other in this, so that we can all harness and refine our energy and sharpen our arrows and show up even more potently, feeling more supported than ever, so that we can generate so much more light from within and energy from within to show up in the way that the world needs most right now, seeing how interconnected we all are, and having the lasting impact that we desire and that is so needed right now. I am so glad you tuned in. If you liked it or loved it, please leave a written review. I'd love to hear from you. And 5 stars if you're really feeling it. I so appreciate it. That helps us reach more women. And remember to sign up for your archetype analysis discovery quiz if you haven't yet. The link to that is in the show notes. And also I have my upcoming masterclass. I hope to see you there. All of that is in the show notes. And just sending you so much love on your next steps, wherever you're at in your journey. I believe in you and I believe in us. I'm so happy to have you here with me. It's an honor to have you tuning in each week. I want you to know that no matter where you're at and no matter what transition you're facing, you are supported and loved. You are whole and you are more than capable as you are in this moment. You always have been. If you're ready to lean into a life of purpose, clarity, and joy through sisterhood, ritual, and intention, join us in the Connected Circle. Consider us your soul squad of women navigating all the transitions of life together. To join now, head over to my website, lisamalia.co, and join the Connected Circle at the very top of the page. I'll see you there. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this show, please share, subscribe, rate, and write a review. This helps the goddess of the algorithm guide other incredible people to find this show and supports the work we do here. It really does make a difference, and I would be so grateful. With all my love, have a beautiful day.